All right. I got a lot I want to talk about. I got a lot on my mind today. It's Halloween as I'm recording this. It's around 7 o'clock at night. Not doing anything for Halloween. No parties, no trick or treating, which I honestly don't even have the energy for, right? Um, because I'm just so busy, and stressed out with college applications and homework and going to school. It feels like every day is just the same exact cycle. You get up, I go to school, I come home, before you know it, you're going to bed. And there are things that I want to do, not just like recreationally, but things I want to accomplish that I just feel I can't do. One of those being like making videos. You'll come home and you'll just be tired. You'll be just like you come home, you wake up in the morning, you go through the day, you come home, you don't do anything, you go into sleep, you're like, oh, tomorrow I'm not gonna waste my time when I get home. I'm gonna try and record a video. But you get up the next day, you're tired as fuck. You go to school, you're tired as fuck. You got people fucking talking at you, homework to do. You come home, you're tired, okay, maybe take a little time off. I just spent 7 straight hours doing this, right? And, before you know it, up, it's, time to work on your homework. And by the time you're done, you got to go to sleep, right? It's the vicious cycle where you just do the same exact thing over and over again. And you don't really have a lot of free time. And you don't have time to work on other things. You know what I mean? Right? Like you'll see this too. Like I think a good example of it is how you'll always see like I don't want to say successful people, but a lot of times people will be like save up or do this or try and get yourself in a better situation. It's hard to do that, right? When your time is so occupied, right? When you don't have much free time, like you need a break. You can't be doing things 24/7. You know what I mean? Like you need at minimum, like in my opinion, everybody on planet Earth should get 3 hours a day to do whatever the fuck they want, right? I don't know. It's a whole other thing I could talk about. Agriculture and the Industrial Revolution, and I feel like the lack of free time we have and the amount of free time we used to have, like way back, like before agriculture. But that's for another video, right? I don't want to compare my situation's not that bad. I've just got college applications. I got a lot of stuff going on. Hopefully in a couple months it'll tone right down. Right? In summer it's the opposite. In summer you have all fucking day, and in summer my problem is that I waste the day. I'm just not good at using my time. I just feel like yeah, I'm not good at it. But yeah. And another thing about the cycle, just doing the same thing every day, is that time goes by so fast, right? Like October, guys, just flew by, and it's Halloween already, right? We're already at Halloween, and then tomorrow I wake up. It's November 1st. I get a nice weekend, and before I know it, it's gonna be November 3rd, on Monday, and then you know it'll be November 30th before I know it. And it's just going by so fast. And I really don't want it to go by fast. If I could be honest, I think I've said this on the channel before. If I could, I'd want to stay in high school for, a while, right? I don't mind high school. My high school, my time in high school really hasn't been that bad. Um, a lot of the things that have been bad about it are not really related to high school at all. which is something else for another video. Everything's something else for another video, but I never really got seriously bullied. I never really I never went through like a lot of just bad and nasty and depressing things. Obviously I had some bad moments. I had some tough times, but most people were pretty cordial with me, right? I don't really have any friends, but I don't really have any haters. Like I don't have kids, bullying me or, asking me to jester max or, taking advantage of me really. People at my school, they seem nice, like, especially the guys, I'll talk to them. I don't really have a deep relationship, but I'll talk to them. It's very like calm, but again, so yeah, right. High school hasn't been too bad for me, and I really wouldn't mind continuing, but then I got to go to college, and college is just a whole other thing, right? I think I also said this. College is a lot more like you know, real life than high school is. High school is pretty similar to middle school, right? You have classes, you have your locker, you have everything. You go to class, you do your work. It's pretty similar. Like the only difference in middle school for me was that like um instead of like going to a class in like a period, you would have like one class that you went to every other class on the day with. Wait, no, no, that wasn't no, no. Actually, we did have periods. I'm getting mixed up, dude. I'm slipping up. But college is, you're living on your own, right? Um, you're entirely responsible for yourself, right? I'm not gonna be able to come home and talk to my family. I'm not gonna be able to, talk to many people, and I feel like it's gonna be very lonely in college, especially where I'm going to college. It's gonna be very lonely. I feel like. I mean, maybe it won't. Maybe I'll make some friends, but I just don't know. I just don't want to go to college. I want to. If I could, I just want to go back as young as I can. I wish I could be zero again and just get another get another couple years, get another 1.5 decades, a little bit more to just just be a kid. You know, because I think I didn't have the most amazing childhood, especially the later parts of my childhood, but I feel like I definitely had some good times, nothing crazy. I'm still a virgin. I've never had a girlfriend, but, especially in like elementary school, I feel like I was doing pretty well, I was pretty happy then. And, right now, even, despite the fact I don't have any friends and I don't have a girlfriend and I come home and do the same thing every day, I'm really not that unhappy, right? Like I've been depressed. Um, like I'm not depressed now. Like I've gotten up every day thinking like, man, I want to kill myself. I don't do that now. So I don't know what it is, but I'm doing all right now. It ain't much, but I'm coping right now. I don't know. Maybe I'll be able to cope in college. I don't know. I definitely am introverted. I don't know. Maybe I have like I forget. There's some personality. I think it's like schizoid personality disorder where you just don't talk to people. I probably don't have that. Everybody loves to self-diagnose with that, but yeah. But yeah. My thoughts on the time flying by. Hopefully, I don't know, before high school ends. I mean, I kind of want to get a girlfriend, but I really don't care that much. I care about my one-itis a lot less now, I feel like, over the past like week. Got to sit next to her in class the other day, so that was pretty chill. It's kind of an oxymoron. I just said I don't care, but I got to sit next to her in class, and I'm like so excited. I guess no, that was yeah. I still care about one-itis. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm thinking about her as much. You know what I mean? I don't feel like she's as attractive as she used to be. Maybe this is just like a 1 week thing. It'll go away in a week, but I don't know. All right. What else do I want to talk about? Well, it's Halloween. All week I was thinking, I want to record. I want to record. I have to do something on Halloween. So we're going to talk about some spooky Halloween stories, some brutal Halloween stories, and that are kind of a microcosm, for kind of my lack of experience, me not hitting a lot of important, social milestones, right? In high school especially, but also middle school, because in middle school I really didn't hit any social milestones either. Like it was just a fall off. Like after fifth grade, I was like completely normal in fifth grade. Then after middle school, I just fell off. But back to Halloween. Obviously, I'm not going out tonight. I don't want to. I don't want to, go trick or treating. I did that last year with a group of people, and I did it in freshman year with a group of people, the same group. So, um, there are these kids at my school, on my grade, um, and they invited me, and we went. And the kid who invited me, I think both times in freshman year and in um, junior year, um, he's all right. I remember one time I actually met up with him and another kid who went on the Halloween trip, the Halloween get together, and something happened. I'll talk about that later. I don't know why I brought that up. My story's just going off the rails. But yeah, basically, I went trick or treating in freshman and junior year, and I did nothing this year, or I'm doing nothing this year, and I did nothing in my sophomore year. Going trick or treating, it was always like, even like the first time in freshman year, I got the sense that I didn't really want to go trick or treating. I feel like every friend group I have, every friend and friend group I have, like when we spend time together, I feel like all we do is fucking walk, and that's exactly what we did. We basically met up in the neighborhood. They all had their costumes. I didn't have a costume because I just think having a costume is incredibly gestured, and if you're in high school, like at some point, you gotta just like grow up, right? I remember I have a acquaintance, a former friend, and I remember like one time I was talking about it with him. He goes to my high school and he was like, "Man, like last time I was in high school, last time I was trick or treating shit was like I was like 13 and shit, whatever." I don't know. He talks like that. He has like a very, very like heavy black accent, like very like heavy African American vernacular English. um, but yeah, like he's right, right? Like if you know what I mean. Like at some point, you gotta put it away, right? And at some point, it's not even fun, right? It's not just about fitting in. Like, if you enjoy it, that's fine. You can do it, but like, it's not really fun, right? When you're in high school, you kind of want to do something different. You kind of want to do something new. You kind of want to do something fun, right? And you know, the evidence of this is that when we would do these things, both freshman and junior year, every other person trick or treating, that wasn't in our group, like 99% were kids or the boomers, with their kids, right? I remember in junior year, walking around the neighborhood, walking. We eventually ended up in like a block party in like a dense part of town. And like I just remember it was just a sea of like 5 year olds and boomers. We were the only people that were like 17 years old, right? And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what the fuck are we doing, right? Like, I'm nearly a grown ass man and I'm doing this, right? It just feels like off, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? And I feel like that happens with a lot of the friend groups I'm in, where I just feel like we're stuck doing the things that we were doing 5 years ago, right? We're stuck doing just childish things. And in my head, I'm just daydreaming, like, man, what if I could be on a date with a girl right now in a nice fancy restaurant, right? What if I could be going out to dinner in a nice restaurant? Like, what if I could be at a party, right? And I don't want to like hold those things up as like the end all be all, but it would be kind of nice to do, right? You know what I mean? And you're coping if you don't think those things could potentially be fun, even for somebody like me who's an introvert, right? I don't know. You know what I mean? It just feels like we're doing, the same thing. I feel like with a lot of my friend groups and friends, I just get that feeling when we hang out together. Like we either do nothing or we just do childish things, right? You know? And Halloween's no different, right? And I'm not trying to hate on my friends. If they enjoy doing it, it's fine. But, I want to do interesting things, right? You know, I want to just have fun. And I just feel like trick or treating is not having fun. You know what I mean? I've been doing it for so long. Like, it's not fun. I don't even dress up. You're just walking around like a homeless person, right? In the fucking either the freezing cold or the scorching sun because it's never like a good temperature. And you're sweating your balls off or freezing your dick off, and you're just like, what the fuck am I doing, right? You know what I mean? It's like on the same level of fun as like probably being like a delivery dude on a fucking bike or whatever, right? Like, what are you doing, right? It just is so boring. And I'm not trying to hate on the groups, but you know, if that's what they like to do, that's fine, but it's just not my thing. And the group I go and did Halloween with, in freshman and junior year was very obviously like mostly neurodivergent. Like most people there were not neurotypical. It is what it is. I remember I'm thinking of one of the kids who went last year. He came with us last year. This motherfucker's like 6'5". I saw him today at school. He came to school in like a white makeup. Like his face was like fucking white. And like now that I'm thinking about it, there are unironically girls who wear like a fuck ton of white makeup on their face. Like they look like a fucking mime. Like it's not like they painted their whole face like bright white, but there's like a very heavy hue of white makeup in the middle. I don't know why they do that. It's the weirdest thing. Like, and anybody else see this at their high school? Like where, the girls will do that. Not my one-itis though. My one-itis never wears makeup. She mogs, okay. Even though that kid who I talked about in the other video said she was 2 PSL, she mogs, okay. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if she mocks. Who knows? But she doesn't wear makeup, so I don't know. And she doesn't dress like a slut. Some of those girls dress kind of slutty. She usually doesn't really dress like a slut. Sometimes she gets a little slutty, but oh, dude, I sound like such a pervert. But back to Halloween. So yeah, the group is obviously neurodivergent. Again, like most people at my school aren't dressing up in costumes, right? Especially the males, and especially in, the older you get, right? They're not dressing up in costumes if the people in the group still are. And again, if that's their thing, if that's their forte, they can go ahead, but it's just not my thing, right? And it just feels like, you're left behind, right? And it's just not a good feeling. What are some other stories? Oh, back to, the kids. I said something about the kids who invited me to Halloween. So the kid that invited me, this is just like a side story. After we met up for Halloween, like a month later, I met up with him and another person from the group, like just on a weekend. And I remember, you know, we were just fucking around doing absolutely nothing. And I remember at one point we were in like a Target or a store in like the self checkout area. And I remember he was on his phone texting the other kid there. And you know, I remember just looking at his phone and I could see him like having like in the message like why did you invite him or whatever. It was just like damn dude, really? I don't know. He sometimes talks to me though. It's weird. I don't know. He sometimes will he'll say hi to me in the hallways. I don't know if he knows I knew he was like texting that. He goes to my high school, by the way. The other kid he was texting to does not. But I actually knew that kid from like elementary school. But yeah, the kid who was texting, we'll just call him like Dave. He's I'm not gonna describe him. But yeah, like he'll say hi to the hallways, he'll converse with me. I don't know. But he's neurodivergent. I don't know what's going on with him. There's like a whole wealth of stories, I could tell about the group. The other kid on that day when we met up after Halloween, I remember Dave, the texting kid, the other one who I'll call Nikolai. Nikolai was like, I remember he wanted to buy like some soy ass fucking, toy from like the store. And I'm just like, dude, I'm thinking in my head, like, what are you doing, dude? You're like, again, nearly a grown ass man buying toys from the store. You know what I mean? It's just like, it isn't something I can relate to. I feel like I don't fit in with neurodivergent people, but I also do not fit in with neurotypical people. Like, I've heard this before, but I really do. Like, I feel like I'm too, like, neurodivergent for the neurotypicals, but too neurotypical for the neurodivergents, right? And, like, I kind of admire in, like, both elements of both groups, you know what I mean? Like I like hanging out with neurodivergent people sometimes, but I get sick of it. Sometimes I want to hang out with neurotypical people. Like I kind of in some ways admire like the normie type of culture, right? I don't know if people are gonna want to hear it, but like this the normie, just very like generic type of just normal people type, shit. Normal slang, normal interests, just kind of, normal media and stuff. The Aspies are gonna hate. They're gonna be like, "Oh, you didn't watch this obscure ass anime. You watched this. Oh, it's so mainstream." I don't give a shit. Sometimes the mainstream is good, right? Sometimes there are things about like the normie culture that I admire, and I just feel like sometimes I got to get away from neurodivergent people. Even though, again, I am myself definitely neurodivergent. So yeah, that's Halloween. I mean, there's a whole, amount of stories I could tell, but again, actually, no, there aren't any stories I can tell. Nothing ever happens, right? Like, I can't really tell a story about Halloween because we literally just meet up and fucking walk around and do nothing, right? You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's Halloween. I mean, I'm not going out tonight because I'm just so tired, as I stated before. But if I did get invited to a party, I, might have considered going. I think in freshman year I did get invited to a party. Dave invited me to the trick or treating thing, and another friend who is no longer a friend invited me to a party. I don't know if it got canceled or they were like, I don't know if you can come, or if I was like, I'm gonna go to the Dave party. I think there was like some condition to go to the party. I should have gone to the party, right? It was just a dumb decision for me. I mean, not I probably wouldn't have amounted to much. I probably would have gone and just not been invited next year. Um, but at least it would have been more fun than going trick or treating, right? Like you know what I mean. Again, if you're almost a grown ass man, you got to stop trick or treating and dressing up. You know what I mean? It's gestured and it's homeless core. You're begging for scraps of candy from strangers while walking around on the street. The gesturedness is just beyond comprehension, right? But it is like Aspicore if you think about it, because like it's kind of a lot like cosplay. Maybe that's why a lot of the neurodivergent people, a lot of the Aspie kids from my school dress up and so go trick or treating. I don't know. They really do. By the way, the group I went with both years, they really go all out with the costumes. By the way, like they do, they go all out. Some of the costumes are a little like esoteric, like they're like from weird animes or whatever. But I got to give it to them; they do go all out. All right, I got to stop talking about it. I'm just fishing for topics. I don't know what to talk about. So that's Halloween. Besides that, not much has been happening. Been applying to college. I got a lot of my applications in. Not a lot, but a good amount. Still not finished. Still have a ton of other bullshit to do. And, my balls still have to be busted. I did get really lucky this week, not with college applications, but with a project. I had a project due, and I literally did not do it the night before. It was due, and I came in, it was due the next day, and my teacher was like, yo, you're getting an extension. And I was like, oh my God, dude, we got an extension. So my balls can hold up being busted for that, right? I'm gonna get the whole weekend to do it. So that's good. But yeah, not much has been happening. I just am incredibly busy. Incredibly busy. Um, yeah. Halloween. It's the Jester Maxing holiday. The kid, the looks maxing kid. I forget what I called him in the last. There was Rodriguez. Who else was there? The one that's not Rodriguez. I forget what I called him in the last video. He came up to me. He was like, "Oh my God, this is Jester holiday or whatever." They're like, and I'm learning more. Like, so many more kids are into the looks maxing stuff. Like, it's mainstream now. In a year, looks maxing and any like looks maxing related things will be fully mainstream. To what extent people will looks max, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because it's like a funny meme and kind of like, funny. Because part of it is kind of funny. You're a LTN, you're a sub five. Actually, the looks maxing kids, they actually called me like a high TN. They were like, "You're a high TN," and that's something I noticed too. Like they call people high TNs, but like the way they say it, they're like, "You're a high TN." They don't say it fast. Like they're like slowing down. Like they're talking to someone in like a foreign language or whatever. Right? I saw it in like a clavicular clip too. He was like he's oh no, like this dude in the video was like, "I'm NMTN," like the way he said it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just ass being obsessing over nothing, but that's also something they say, Aspie. I feel like most of those guys aren't Aspie. So they're just normies. And we're getting in on a trend. What else can I talk about? So we talked about the endless cycle, talked about Halloween. Oh, I do have some plans for the channel. The best way to put it is that
I have plans that I cannot share with you right now because the haters will sabotage me. I have plans that I cannot share with you right now because the haters will sabotage me. I have plans that I will not share right now because the haters will sabotage me. But I got some stuff in the works.
don't freak out. I'm not gonna go shoot up my school again. Those are just plans for the channel, but stay tuned because I do have plans for the channel. It was a long rant, but I think I'm going to end it off here because I don't have anything to talk about. I talked about Halloween. Wish me luck, guys, on my college applications. Time's just flying by. Hopefully, maybe I can go to the same college as my one-itis. I don't know. I think about that too. I'm not gonna like if I find out she's going to college at X, like I'm not going there just because she's going. By the way, I don't really simp for her, but I do like mentally obsess over her. So, all right, I'm gonna end it off there. I think we're done.